Hey everyone, whether you are joining us live or you are joining us later on, we are excited that you're with us. As you've seen kind of in 2022, we're utilizing some of our online spaces to experiment with how we can dive deeper with content, how we can go a little bit more in the weeds, how we can truly understand what we're talking about on Sunday mornings at a little deeper level. And for this series, we thought, what better way to use this time and this space than to just get real practical and to share some things from both Scott and myself, our perspectives of how we can be generous, how we can be generous with our finances or our time or our gifts as well. So today, obviously, we're going to be talking through the aspect of our finances and generosity. So we're going to talk through some things such as how do we consider the ethical implications of where we spend our money. We're going to be talking through some real basics on budgeting and making sure that we're making wise choices there. But then also just some tips and practices, both that Scott and I have for how we try to be generous as people. So before we dive in, Scott, is there anything that you want to add?
No, I think you pretty well covered it. I think the goal is to really just, I think for us, we always want anything that we talk about any day of the week to integrate with the other days of the week. And so, particularly with a teaching series, really want it to come alive in our Monday through Saturday if it goes live on Sunday, that kind of type of thing. So, grateful that you create that space, man.
Yeah. Yeah, so to start off, the first thing that we had that I had mentioned that we were going to talk a little bit about is just some of the ethics behind how we spend our money. And there are kind of two different resources that we kind of want to point you in today in that direction. The first one is one maybe you've heard us talk about before. It's called Slaveryfootprint.org. And what it does there is this website where basically you can simulate the things that you have, and it will tell you uh, the impact that those things have. We obviously know that there is financial implications to that because buying things that are more environmentally friendly or better for us to eat or that have less harm sometimes are more expensive. But it's also good for us to be aware of where our things come from. So to do that, I'm going to share the screen and kind of walk through a little bit of what that looks like. So that way we can just show you, and hopefully then you can dive a little bit deeper into this website. So let me share that. All right. So here's I've already gone ahead and started the survey and filled in a couple of the easy parts, such as zip code, and then on the next slide, just it'll ask you about gender and age as well. Um, from there, it kind of takes you into some of the conversations about your family size, because obviously family size impacts what you have, what you spend your money on. Here, I've gone ahead and put as I have an 8-year-old son and then three daughters that are 6, 4, and 1 represented here. So over on the side here, you can fine tune the impact of those children. Maybe they are children that have they're more bikes or less bikes, or maybe they have more rain boots or dresses, whatever it is. This is kind of just the default that they set up initially to identify the impact of kids when it comes to buying things. Um, from there, you kind of can dive a little bit deeper. It's going to ask me to fine tune it again. Um, and it begins to ask the question of what is your relationship to where you live? I'm an owner. I have a certain amount of bedrooms. We have 2 cars, so we can just go ahead and dump these in here. A couple bathrooms, and that will obviously impact again what we how our impact of our money is manifested. So, food is the next thing that kind of it talks through, where you can scale out any of these. This is one that I don't personally have a great sense of, honestly, in terms of like what is the percentage breakdown So I'm just going to keep it generic for the sake of this conversation to keep moving this forward. It's got the impact as well of our medicine cabinet. So say we have some shampoo, we've got comb, toothpaste, toothbrush, mouthwash, floss, whatever it is. We can go ahead and just add those in. I guess here we go, blocking them in like that. Keep moving. Take you to the jewelry. Say we have a bunch of diamond rings. That's not true for our family. We don't have 10 diamond rings, but we'll just say that we do for the sake of argument.
Influencer.
Yes, the influencer. And here it kind of talks about the electronic use, because obviously there's a major impact there, both from the manufacturing of the electronics, but also the impact of the energy use. So Scott, do you think that you are more of a gadget geek or a gamer or regular Joe?
I mean, not a super tech savvy guy, so we'll go just more of a gamer, regular Joe, whatever
Okay.
fits that paradigm. I streamed Boba Fett last night.
Okay.
So,
Let's go with the regular Joe. I feel like that would work here.
yeah.
Um all right. You can fine tune that as well if you want, kind of diving a little bit deeper into what you have. So, like for example, Scott has teenagers and a preteen in his house. So, obviously, like things like a phone is going to be higher than in my family where we have little kids. Go from there with different kinds of sporting goods. So, say we have a bike, we got a treadmill, and we love golf. So, we can go ahead and add those in. What's in the closet? I'm just going to go with this. I definitely do not have 50 leather shoes. I don't know about you, Scott.
No, I do not. I do not.
Or
Maybe
50
in my
suits
life.
and jackets.
Yeah, maybe in my lifetime. Gracious.
Maybe we'll scale back that to like 10.
Yeah,
uh
getting a sense though of what we're.
Yeah, and then this last question is just the question of how many times have you paid for sex? If you actually pull this down, they say they're not going to ask that, but they want to emphasize here the impact of that, which we've talked about for years now through
Yeah,
our partnerships with Airmen to Freedom. Um, yeah,
yeah. Samaritan women drink at the well.
Samaritan Women. Yep.
Yep.
So then after that, you can kind of just go to the next one. And what's going to break down is it's going to say specifically, this is how many slaves that you have in theory working for you, slaves that have been impacted through the things that you have. It can go. You can keep scrolling down. You'll see the different ways that you can change some of that. So this is one of the ways that we can break down just the ethical implications of this. Scott, is there anything you want to add to this one before I kind of move on to
Well,
the next?
yeah. I mean, I just think that, like, I mean, I think when we talk about things like this that are just so heavy,
Mhm.
the building block is not to just compound like guilt and shame, but
Yeah.
but like when we think about money, like there's usually sort of this idea, well, what's my money and I do it with it what I want to, and I think we're trying to like unpack the myth of that, right? That,
Yeah.
like this conspicuous, the same thing we've said for 2 years, when you do your takeout meal, the difference between that local business that you've been getting takeout from versus the name that that is being nationally endorsed as in commercials, like those dollars don't distribute the same way. And the just I think thinking through the idea of intentionality versus just, oh gosh, I'm an awful human. When I look at that
Yep.
number, it's scary. The goal here is freedom, and actually, when it comes to money and resources, helping it work for the life that we're trying to create, just not just for our family, but for the world that we live in, which is followers of Jesus, we care about.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think there's a bunch of websites too that we can go to and we can see even the impact of the businesses that we're supporting, and we can get a more specific breakdown of if I buy my clothes at Target, it may be different than if I buy my clothes at Old Navy, and
Yeah.
if I buy my clothes somewhere else, through both of the impact of these things. but also through like where do these companies spend their money? You know,
Yeah.
not just where they're cutting corners, but where are they also putting money into,
Yeah.
which I think is also important.
Yeah, I used to,
Um,
oh, sorry,
yeah,
man.
go ahead.
No, so I know I used to, we kind of have like, something we kind of encourage Amber and I, like, just to have some house rules for like, hey, if we're going to go over this dollar amount, let's talk about it. Let's think about it. Let's not just
Hmm.
impulse buy. But like increasingly, we kind of with this conversation are like, man, the problem with just saying solely in that kind of thinking is if it encourages us to buy the cheapest, least expensive anything every time. I mean, this is kind of the implications of that. So again,
Hmm.
intentionality, I think, being key, and really the framework I think of this conversation is like maybe it takes us a little bit longer. Maybe we've got a little bit think a little deeper, but like even in the resources and stuff that we invest in, making sure those things are in as much as we can help it, creating the world that we want. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think that a helpful analogy for me is always just the food analogy of like it is a lot cheaper and easier to go to McDonald's. It may fill up your belly, uh, but a salad's going to be a lot more healthy for you, and it may be more expensive. You may pay 2 to 3 times the amount for a good salad, but you know that the impact is much better for you and your body.
Yeah.
Similar to this conversation. Okay, so the next thing, kind of on the same vein, I want to share this. Actually, it's a new website that I found that kind of just shares how rich am I, which is I think a question that maybe some of us have answered before, maybe some of us don't want to answer. Um, it's a website I think we've seen similar ones too, but I like some of the impact that this one has. So on this one, you can enter what is your income. We'll say for this one, just say my income's $50,000. I'm a single adult. I don't have any children. From there, you can kind of just hit calculate, and if you scroll down, it'll tell you that you are in the richest 1.5% of people in the world. And again, like Scott said, this isn't necessarily to make you feel bad or to feel guilty, but it's the question of what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with this information? Uh, if you scroll down, it says if you donate 10% of your income, uh, obviously your income would drop down to $45,000. You'd still be in the 2 percentile of richest people in the world, and the impact that that can then have through treatments, through medicine, through preventatives, and even just through honestly saving lives. Um, Obviously, you can run through the simulation again. Say that you make a lot more than that because you have a bigger family and you got a family of um, 2 adults and 3 kids. The nice thing about this website is it factors in family size too and the impact of that. So you can see here that a family of 5 making $150,000 is actually in the 1.8 percentile, not as high as a single person making $50,000. But the impact still is there where, a person making $150,000, a family, they donate 10% of their income, they can help save 4.4 healthy
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah, and I love that because, like, I think two things this website does really well. I think number one, I think we tend to think about when we set like giving goals or stuff like that, like the scarcity of like, well, that's 5,000 less dollars as opposed to like in the year 50,000. Like, man, that's $45,000. I still have to work within the parameters of the budget or whatever. If I kind of go from like a first fruit, like that's my goal. But I love that idea of impact because I think we do minimize the impact that our dollars and our contributions when it comes to giving has in the world of nonprofits, in the world of some of the justice initiatives. We kind of wait for, maybe one day that billionaire or this country will sort of get behind a particular thing. And man, we miss the good that we can do and the impact that we can make. And who doesn't want to do that, right? Who doesn't want to make an impact in the world? Love it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so just to keep us moving, because obviously we know that time is valuable here. We want to get to just some of the practical things we can do as well. Something that you would hear any of us talking about is just the realities of having a budget. There are a lot of websites. The nice thing about 2022 is there's a lot of websites you can connect
Yeah.
all of your bank accounts and your credit cards to, that will automatically sync in everything you spend and kind of spit out a real time what you are spending your money on and keep you accountable. Um, is that how you have kind of managed your stuff, Scott?
Yeah, it's funny because I keep getting emails from Mint that says, "Do you know how much you're paying in subscriptions?" Like,
Yeah.
and sure enough, it was helpful because like I had let a free trial kind of lapse on something, and it was like an aware. It's so I loved that. So yeah, I'm like more of a paper and pen kind of guy. You know, that was the
Mm,
world I came from. You know, being now in my fourth decade, but like but I love Mint has been the one. I think there's plenty that work. That's one
mhm,
that's worked for me. Just trends year over year, month over month. You can see some of those things, and it is just crazy when you follow. You know, something that compartmentalizes your spending. You're like, wait a second, I don't wait. Yes, I do. Yep, yep.
mhm,
It is not trying to read it through the lens of like someone that's like after you. Oh, you spend too much on clothes. It's like
mhm.
no, it's like just figuring out what in these categorizations what I've spent on clothes, and it's telling me something. So yeah, I love the idea of just it again. We're talking about money working for us, and we can't make it no work for us if we don't know what's coming in and what's going out. You know that there have been times in life where it's like, man, maybe I have an income crisis. Maybe the issue
Mhm.
isn't what's going out. I'm not being irresponsible, but there's just not much coming in. And
Yeah.
I know that, but do I know the deficit of that? Do I know the issue behind that? And do I know then what action steps I need to take? So,
Yeah, definitely. I think that you had mentioned the subscription thing with Mint. I've not used Mint for that, but like Truebill is another one that I've used before, where it's helpful because man, we can just get caught up and we cut the cable, but at the same time now we've got Netflix and Disney Plus and Hulu and Amazon and count the things that we are just subscribing to. A lot of times without even realizing it, it's
yeah,
just money that immediately is out of our pocket.
yeah,
um, and if one of these websites isn't the best tool for you, you can go to several different websites and find something such as this, which is just really like an Excel spreadsheet. Um, and here they have automatic formulas set in where you can just enter in your different amounts and it will total it for you, where you can, realize your debt, realize your savings, um, your variable expenses, and you can kind of budget in this way too.
yeah.
um, One other thing I would just add to that I think is helpful, especially with budgeting, if you're not new to budgeting, is to try to find the different things that are variable expenses and try to find ways to budget those well. For example, BGE has a budgeting option.
Mhm.
We don't know that sometimes because you have to opt into it, but it allows you each month to pay the same amount as opposed to these incredible swings that you could have in an electric bill.
Yeah.
So trying to find those, I think, also is a helpful just tip that someone told me a handful of years ago in my personal budgeting.
Yeah, and I just give a quick plug here. You know, we're in a group semester. If you are part of the
Mhm.
Foundry, we do these periodic groups and classes and things. And there's one called More Than Money in March that a friend of ours, Fabian, is facilitating. In their story, just knowing their story, like they were able to struggling with debt and wanting to get that out of their life, just not being in dealing with that. But like what's interesting was like it was their story was really rooted in sort of getting to the bottom of their budget and prioritizing values and I know that's just something that class is trying to help people think about is like just understanding where our money is going and then thinking about that through the lens of okay, what is it what is the life that it's truly life. I mean, what is it that and then just on a practical brass tacks fashion. Like I love what you said there, Austin. Like, hey, if I can smooth that out to even out where I'm not like living in anticipation of the crazy swing, um,
Mhm.
in as much as I can. And or if I get paid irregularly, if I get paid
Yeah.
commission or quarterly, sort of knowing how do I still build, there's all kinds of resources. We're not getting paid for any particular resource, but I'm just saying we got to think these things through, and in as much as it's our capacity, right, eliminate the things that would um, knock us out in the conversation. I think every family probably once every 10 years has a significant financial crisis,
Mhm.
something in the house breaks, somebody's bones break, something crazy happens with the car. And man, we don't want that to take us out any more than the event and the pain of the event takes us out, right? Which I think part of that conversation as well.
Yeah, definitely. So as we are kind of closing out here, I just wanted to ask Scott, and then I guess I'll answer it myself. Just what are some practical things that you do in your life to make sure that you are generous?
Yeah. Well, so my wife and I every year have it's not the most romantic date night, but we really do set aside and say, hey, what is it? What's a percentage of our income? Praying through that we want to give away. As we started practicing tithing years ago, but now we're at a point in life where we're like, hey, we don't just want to do like a 10%. We want to really live generously and not just go into autopilot mode. So thinking about those organizations we want to support, things that we care about as a family, but then also creating spots in our story for spontaneous generosity, where hey, I wanted to take so and so to dinner. I wanted to buy someone a meal. Someone had a baby. Let's send them a DoorDash gift card. Creating that margin in our budget. I think that's birthed out of some intentionality on our end, the beginning of a year, and then it, kind of then holding ourselves accountable to that over the course of a year. And then the other thing I just do practically, seasons like Lent, from if I'm abstaining from something, I try to think about like, hey, if I'm not doing coffee, that's a $2.65 I can bless in some other capacity.
Mhm.
And trying not just to be like trying to really see things through that lens too, because $2.60 accumulated over a month, and like not shortchanging the amount of good small gifts can do
Mm.
in someone's life and someone's story. That's a lengthier answer probably than,
No, it's helpful.
but those are a couple just really practical things for Amber and I.
Yeah, I think that for our family, I think there's some similar things to what you were saying that I would just expand on a little bit too. I think one of the things that we make sure that we do on a regular basis after we have those types of annual meetings to assess kind of where we're at financially is to set up automatic gifts. So
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, that's good.
whatever amount that we are giving, that we know we are giving each and every month, let's set that up automatically. So that way, the day that the money hits my account from my paycheck, it's also going out
Yeah,
immediately.
yeah,
Um, Even thinking through some of the impact of how you're giving too, because a lot of these organizations have different things like credit card fees, and so
yes,
you can maximize your giving by giving in different ways, such as setting it up directly from your bank account as opposed to a credit card. And then I think the other thing I would just say is having in mind the person or the organization or the resource that we want to invest in, if there is a large gift that comes our way and we're able to drop more than we can normally do on a month-to-month basis.
yeah,
One example of that is we have good friends of ours that are missionaries in Kenya, and we can't support them month to month. We just don't have the resources to do that. But if we have a gift come in, a generous gift, oftentimes we'll take a percentage of that and try to give that to them, who are doing really great work in Kenya. So those are just some of the tips that I have as well that I find
yeah.
helpful.
And I love that. I mean, I think it's so practical, and I think what you're saying there, and just we live in this world, right? To not neglect the small beginnings, and to
Hmm.
not neglect the small, like, oh, it's just $20 here. It probably goes back, but like it matters. It does, right?
Yeah.
To your friends in Kenya, that $20 thing, it not only blesses a need, but it also is like, man, Austin is thinking about us, is engaging us, and I got
Hmm.
to tell you that like that those are some of those intangibles that we sometimes when we just like think about what we can't do, we
Hmm.
just like we adopt a scarcity mindset, and we those are, I think, some of the things that we miss out on, and the things that maybe God wants to do in our story, and ways in which God wants to use us to bring beauty and good to the world. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Cool. Well, I hope this was helpful. If you are joining us live, or if you are following up after the fact, I hope that some of these tips or these conversations further your conversations that you are having about finances and generosity. We're going to be doing this each week throughout this series, where Scott and I kind of get on Thursday at noon and share some of these things. And we hope that you join us the next 2 weeks as we kind of dive into time, and then also our gifts as well in the upcoming weeks. So thanks for being here with us. We will see you next week.
Yeah. Happy lunch.